Welcome to Primetime, everybody. I'm your host, Tony Chambliss. I'm joined by my co-host, Chad and Carrie. How's it going, guys?
Going great, Hunter. We. This is such a long time in the making. Holy shit! We finally got here. We finally finished our 31 days. like
In December.
2 months later.
Oh man, yeah, I'm super excited to get this series for the year done with because we do have a lot of stuff for the new year to be planned. But yes, this is the 2010s and 2020s episode of the 31 Days of Primetime. I am super excited to get into this. So, Chad, why don't you explain what this series was?
Yeah. Essentially, last year we did a 30. No, we did a 61 days last year. It was insane. If you can imagine, we were like, let's do something shorter this time. Let's do 31 days instead. Essentially 32 because we like to throw in like a hocus pocus kind of thing every year as well.
Hmm.
But last year we did 61 days and it took forever to finish. And we ended up finishing, I think, in December. And now we did 31 days and we're still finishing in December. And as you can see, I have the Christmas lights behind me. Carrie and I went on vacation. Hunter has been really busy at his job. It's just a lot of stuff has come up, and but the tenacity that we have, I don't know if that's the right word, but we're like, let's finish this damn thing. I don't care how long ago we planned it, how long ago we watched some of these movies. Let's get in here and talk about them because we did watch them for this, and it's fun. Last year and this year we decided to go through decades. I don't know if that's what we're going to do next year, but we are excited to do another one of these. We're just gonna have to plan it a little bit better, I guess. But we did do decades, and so we went from I believe the 30s is where we started, all the way
Mm-hmm.
to the 2020s, and so now, because the only episode that Hunter wasn't on was the 50s and 60s episode, it was just Carrie and I for that. We're going to give Hunter a chance to go through some of those movies and tell us like what he remembers of them and whether he liked them or not, at least just to, because I'm curious. He watched
Mm-hmm.
those movies for it, and I want to hear what he has to say about them. And then after that we'll go on to do our discussion of the three of us for the 2010s and the 2020s movies. And I'm very excited to get to those. And then we're going to wrap it up with not just the ranking of these 10s and 20s movies, but all the movies. We're going to have each
Mm-hmm.
of 32 movie ranking, and then we're going to have an overall ranking that Carrie is currently compiling for us. So we should have that at the very end, and that's going to be really fun to see where people rank stuff. So, and I'm sure it's going to be very different because it's 32 movies. So without
Mm-hmm.
further ado, let's shoot it over to Hunter to give us his take on these movies.
Whoa! All right, giant screen. So I did not get on that episode, so I have six movies to talk about. We start with The Thing, Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Blob, Black Sunday, The Birds, and Repulsion. So let's start off with The Thing from Another World. I really like this movie. I like really good sci-fi, and this is what it brought. I still think I still prefer John Carpenter's version, but that's because that's the one I watched first, the one I fell in love with. But this one, you can clearly see that there's a lot of parallels between the two of those. The acting is really good. I think the creature designs and the way that they were able to do a lot without showing you a lot is very impressive. So let's move on to Creature from the Black Lagoon. Again, another one I really liked. I like these creature and like kind of sci-fi type movies. This one has a really good mm, kind of love story to it that I really liked. Let's move on to the Blob. Again, creature feature. Really enjoyed it. This one I actually liked more, probably because it was one. It was in color, so it helped me kind of stay focused. If that makes sense. But also, you have these really cool effects, these really cool kind of characters that you kind of fall in love with. Then we have Black Sunday, a very, very good kind of supernatural movie about, reincarnation and things like that. I believe it is. Yes, it's Mario Bava. So it is a slightly giallo film. Very very fun. Then of course we have The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock, one of the greatest horror directors of all time. And this is probably my second favorite Hitchcock movie behind Psycho. I love the characters. I love how kind of detailed they are and how they're all flawed, but you still kind of fall in love with these characters. And then finally, we have Repulsion by Roman Polanski. Hate the director. Kind of love the movie. I like how it deals with somebody who is repulsed by the idea of sexual interaction or just like a romantic interaction with a man and how that can not only be psychological but also can put our main character into parallel damage. I like that parallel. So overall, I liked pretty much all these movies. There's not one that I really hated. So that's my thoughts on the 50s and 60s movies.
Nice. I enjoyed those thoughts. And it's just interesting. Like, I think we need to figure out, because I know Hunter talked a little bit about the black and white cinematography and how sometimes that can maybe have be like some sort of like barrier for you to enjoy movies, which I think is fair, especially if you grew up mostly just watching things in color. You
Mm-hmm.
can it can kind of be jarring to go back and maybe not be able to tell what everything is, because it's harder to look at, I guess. It feels like sometimes maybe you have to like train yourself to watch black and white movies
Yep.
sometimes. But I feel like, we have to like compile some sort of list of movies that, despite being black and white, that I think you would still love,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that would help you maybe be able to watch some of the movies. Although I do also get it that sometimes a lot of like black and white horror movies just maybe aren't the best either. So I don't know. But
It, it it also doesn't help that a lot of the movies back in the day, especially 50s and 60s, dealt with their movies were very slow burns.
yeah,
So like they would build up stuff, and sometimes when a slow burn is done very well, it can get you intrigued, but sometimes it just makes it a slog to get through.
yeah, yeah. Especially like if you look at like The Thing from Another World, where
Mm-hmm.
you're used to John Carpenter's The Thing, where it's a little bit slow, but then when John Carpenter has something that happens, it's like nuts, and you're like, what the
Mm-hmm.
heck is that, kind of a deal. But with The Thing from Another World, it's like mostly like scientists trying to figure out what this thing is, until finally you get to see it. And it happens, I think, a little bit later in the movie. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think you're right about like, sometimes a slow burn, it's actually building a story rather than having like a jump scare every, few minutes and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I'm not saying that you need that. You're a person that needs
Mm-mm.
that, because I know you love story over scares and stuff most of the time, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think a lot of the times, even Carrie and I are sometimes, kind of trained that, there's a certain pacing and a certain like modern style of storytelling that we're used to. So it's a little
Mm-hmm.
bit jarring to watch movies from the past and then be able to like fully get immersed and things like that. But I wanted to ask you, Hunter, real quick. Do you have a quick rattle off that you can do of the 50s and 60s, like if you were ranking them in the episode?
So I don't have it on me, but I have the movies right here. I can do it on top of my head easily.
Sure.
So I'd probably go starting with six. I'll probably go with The Thing from Another World,
Okay.
then Creature from the Black Lagoon at five, then Black Sunday at four, Repulsion at three, The Blob at two, and The Birds at one.
Wow, okay. That's cool, 'cause, I
Mm-hmm.
remember Carrie and I ranked The Blob a little bit lower, and then Carrie, I think, had Repulsion last, and I had Repulsion
Ooh,
first.
interesting.
So I'm glad that you were, like,
Nice.
right in the middle. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of fun to see that, I had it the highest, you had it middle, and she had it dead
Mm-hmm.
last. You just kinda did not vibe with that one. But we all had The Birds pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Birds was also Carrie's number 1. that episode, right?
Oh, of the 60s
50s.
and 50s.
Mhm.
Yes, that would have been my number one. Yeah. Yes, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like thinking about all those movies, and I was like, I remember her just like loving on the bird. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's a pretty great one. So I guess since we finally finally got the 50s and 60s thoughts from Hunter, it's what we wanted for a very long time.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and get into the 10s and 20s. You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started with our first movie. And it was The Wolfman from 2010. As you can see, Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins. Hunter, do you want to
Hmm.
start with this movie?
Yeah. So this one's interesting. This is the first time watch for me. So going into it, I had heard so much negativity on this movie and like how much people didn't like it. And when I watched it, I understood why some people may not like it because it is a very slow movie where not a lot happens. I kind of liked it because of the atmosphere and the environment and the kind of world that Joe Johnston, the director, put us into. I love the creature designs from Benicio del Toro and the acting from Anthony Hopkins. I will say this is not the Anthony Hopkins a lot of people were expecting because he does kind of seem like he's just kind of reading off lines, but there are some times where he gets angry and that theater training comes out and you're like, that's the Anthony Hopkins I wanted that I wish I got through this entire movie. But overall, it's not as terrible as people said it is, but I didn't absolutely love it either. It's right in the middle for me. It's a great environment, some decent acting, and actually some really good like a gore effects towards the end, especially when the Wolfman comes out and starts swiping on people. Like it's a really interesting monster movie, but there are very slow moments.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't disagree with that. I think that it is. I don't know if I don't know if I'd call it a good movie, but I do think it is one of those movies. It kind of reminds me of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
it has like a good story in there. I like the performances, especially Benicio del Toro. I really felt for him for a lot of the movie. I thought I think the effects in this one are better than the ones in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah, some of the transformations and stuff looked really cool. A lot of the werewolf stuff in the beginning, like before Benicio turns,
Mm-hmm.
you are really kind of scary because they make it seem like the wolf can just attack you really quickly. Kind of feels like the monsters in A Quiet Place, like before you really know what they were. It's just like you can kind of all of a sudden just be snatched up and eaten really quickly, which is very scary to think about. Like you don't even have a second to think. So I think there's a lot of this movie that was directed really well by Joe Johnston. I just think he's just a really good director, just in general. And I do think like some of the visuals are actually pretty scary. And I really did like the tragic love story in it, and just there's a lot of good direction in it, and a lot of good stuff in it. But I do agree that I think overall maybe just a lot too much fluff and filler, and less of like a focused story, or at least maybe just the pacing made it feel that way, at least because I don't remember the movie that well. But I also think that's part of the problem, is that it's just
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it's just not really memorable. And it's just not one that it kind of reminds me a little bit. I think it's a better movie than Lee Winnell's Wolfman, but I also
Really?
I do. I do think it's a better movie because I wasn't even scared in Lee Winnell's movie. But with this one, I
That's
think it's
fair.
actually a little bit scarier.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that both of them just like don't really work on like like full like storytelling facet. I didn't love this one, but I think I liked it more than I expected to.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said. I think this definitely could have been better. It wasn't really a very good movie. It's one that I wouldn't mind rewatching, and I think we certainly watched worse movies for this 31
Mhm.
days. Maybe, in my opinion, maybe in this, I think definitely actually in this, because we're doing wait, no, we already did 2000s. This is 2010s and 2020s. But I still think maybe this isn't quite the worst. Yeah, I mean, for the quality of actors in this as well, it's just like a little disappointing. It just seems like the plot isn't really there though, and maybe the script and some of the special effects were really cool though. Like some was like really blatant CGI and not super well done,
Mhm.
but you could tell some of the effects like that were more well done with CGI or more practical. Looked kind of cool. There were, like you guys said, there were like kind of individual moments that were a little bit scary. But yeah, overall kind of a disappointing movie, I think.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe American Werewolf in London, and I think The Howling. But other than that, I just don't know many like werewolf movies that I've just loved. So it's just really, I don't know, it's
Yeah.
a story that is hard to nail down. But we have Robert Eggers coming out with one. So
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. Also, shout out to Emily Blunt in this movie. I think she was probably the best part of the movie.
ooh, yeah, good call, good call. She's great. And oh, that's the A Quiet Place connection.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to the next movie, which is Would You Rather?
I am so excited to hear you guys' reaction to this one because this one was my pick.
Keep telling yourself it's just a game. Um, I don't yeah, I don't know. I didn't really know what this was. And I just yeah, I didn't really vibe with this one. It was one that it felt kind of like just like a torture movie, like for the sake
Mhm.
of watching people get tortured. And I know that they had like some sort of message that they were toying with, it doesn't matter people's convictions if it comes down to your safety or your life, you're gonna, you're not going to uh you'll kill to survive and stuff like that. And for me, it's just kind of like, well, yeah, I know that. I already know that, like, if someone's gonna die and there's only one way to live, then they're going to do whatever they can to survive. I mean, unless
Mhm.
die or kill a child or something. If it's like a really extreme like predicament like that, then maybe someone would be like, well. But then again, it's one of those things where it is horrific because, I don't wanna see these people do these things to each other and themselves, but also, like, I just didn't really find it enjoyable watching them do these things to each other and themselves and
Mhm.
stuff. And it's like when you go to like other movies that are kind of like this, like Hostel and Saw and stuff. That's just you're watching people get tortured. At least with Saw, I feel like it's
Mhm.
just there's actual like detective story going on. They're trying to
Mhm.
catch a killer. The traps are a lot of the times very interesting, so it's, like, interesting to see people try to get through these things, so it's there's winnable even when you have, like, the whole idea of, "Wait, Jigsaw, was that trap actually winnable?" kind of a deal, and you gotta, like, put him on trial,
Well,
but
to be fair, if Amanda is making the traps, no, they're not winnable.
that's correct, and he has a lot of issues with her because of that, I feel like in Saw 2, but or is it Saw 3? But I will say, that this one just yeah, it just wasn't interesting, as a whole for just what I didn't care about the characters, and it's weird because I like the cast, like, you got Brittany Snow in there, you got June Squibb in there,
Mhm.
it's like, man and it's got, uh, Crabman from My Name Is Earl, which, is one of it's a show that I love, and I was like, "Oh, Crabman," and he's, like, barely a character, and I feel like all the characters were just barely characters, like, it kind of like reminds me of like no offense, Hunter, if you really really like this movie, but it kind of
Mhm.
reminds me of like a worse version of, and I think Harry pushed back when I said this, but The Invitation. And just the reason I say that is because like the one where they're at like a dinner, and the reason I say
Mhm.
that is because like, it just feels like, I know the only connection is that they're at a dinner, and it's a very different movie other than that. But I just feel like the writing in it, or if you even look at like Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag and stuff like that, there's ways to write like dinner scenes that I feel like, where you have like, or even 12 Angry Men, like there's a black and white movie
Mhm.
for you that's thrilling. Um, that's just people at a table trying to figure out what the verdict is of a court case. And I feel like there's ways to write characters and story around like a small setting like this that like just makes it very fascinating, and you just want to see what happens. And for me, I just don't feel like I got a lot of that writing that really kept me engaged. It was just really like a lot of like preamble up until the dinner, and then it's like, oh, we'll kill you, kind of a deal. You'll kill yourself, you'll kill each other, and I don't know. I just don't really feel like it had that tension other than the squeamishness of not wanting to see people get hurt in the
Mhm.
ways that they got hurt. But I mean, I was scared in that way because I don't like seeing you cut your eye out or you'll die, kind of a deal and stuff. And I don't know. Was trying to think if there's anything else to add, but honestly, yeah, I think that's really just how I felt. Is I just didn't really enjoy watching this one. So
Yeah, when I said when we were talking about the Wolfman that I didn't think it was the worst movie we watched in this set, it's because there's this one, and I'm sorry, Hunter, I know you do really like this movie, but this is definitely just like not to my taste, and I'm like I don't like the Saw movies, and I don't mind gore in some contexts, but this type of movie where it's like I don't like a lot of people playing a game and the game is really gory. It's just not my thing.
Mhm.
So this movie it's not for me. It's very funny because we started the movie and Chad kept like was talking about how he likes all the cast and he kept like picking out the different cast members and he's like kind of excited about the movie, but I know Chad's taste and I was like, he's not gonna like this movie though. um but yeah, this wasn't actually first watch for me. I've seen this a couple times before.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, I don't know why I've seen it multiple times before this because I don't really like it, but I think I had to study it for trivia or something. Um, yeah, I don't know. I can understand where you're coming from, Hunter, with liking it. But yeah, it's just not to my taste.
Mhm.
I just have particular subgenres of horror that I like more than others, and this isn't one of my favorite subgenres.
Yeah, I get that totally. I do find it funny that Sasha Grey's name is prominently on the poster when she's barely in the movie.
I know.
all
It's
right.
and there's like definitely well, I don't know if there's like bigger stars than her. In like a mainstream movie, there's bigger stars than she is.
I like to sometimes when I don't like a movie, I like to think about what they could have done to make me like it, and I
Mhm.
think like they already made that movie, and it was Ready or Not. I feel like that's kind of a thing, like making like a dinner that turns into a
Yeah.
game, but like don't make it like all at the table. Like, you have that home, maybe it's just a low budget. They didn't have the whole mansion or wherever they were to do, but
Mhm.
explore the mansion, like make them go through and just change the setting up a little bit. Maybe that would have made it a little bit more interesting. So
I find it funny that you guys are both like, I'm sorry that I know you like it. I do like this movie, but I understand it's not for everybody. And I think the reason I liked it is because I watched it just randomly on Netflix and I never heard about it, never saw anything about it, didn't even know the premise of it. I put it on, and what caught my attention was the cast is great, but two, you had almost a story of wills in a way, like who is going to be the strongest in this competition. And I always like those type of movies that like will push the balance of human wills and
Mm.
test their limits. And this movie does that very well. I do understand that it does take place in one location, which is mostly just, the dinner scene. But what I love is you get to go around the table and you get to know a little bit about everybody. So then when the time comes of would you rather do this or this, when the game actually happens, you don't want to see anything bad happen to these characters. Like not once did I ever see a character other than Sasha Grey's character, which there is, or like I guess spoilers, when she attacks June Squibb, I was like, yeah, I'm okay with her just dying at this point, but I get it. Like there's no characters in the competition that I wanted to see get hurt. Now, I love Jeffrey Combs in this movie. I think he is so terrifying. And his son, played by what is it, Robert Lloyd Taylor, who was Penguin in the Gotham TV show. I think he is the perfect amount of kind of snarky asshole that like you want to see him get his. I understand why people would not like this movie, especially because of the ending. I think the ending is so fucking depressing.
Yeah.
Because this movie, I think, would have been better if they had a happier ending, but I'm glad that they kind of stuck to their message of even if you do everything possible, life is still going to find a way to make it more difficult on you. Especially if you don't have the means of, getting a good health care or getting to a hospital or getting treatment. Like, that's stuff that you can't do without being a certain level of wealth, because it spoils for the ending. Like, Brittany Snow's character is doing this for her brother who has cancer. She wants to get the money to get treatment, but when she finally survives and gets the money, she comes home and finds out that her brother has taken his own life. And again, it's the life can give you so many opportunities, but you can never control every outcome that I like. Of like you can do all you want for your family, for yourself, and then there's always a possibility of something turning negative, but it's the will of going on that I like. And the just the story of somebody down on their luck trying to put themselves in a situation where they need the money and they will do anything and everything to get that money, I think is really interesting to me. It also deals with, of course, the class system, which I always like when movies can do that. I do understand why people would like this because it does deal with gore, it does deal with torture, and the ending is very tragic. But that's kind of what I like about it, is that it sticks to its guns all the way through. It doesn't make a twist to where, oh, this has a happy ending. Like, this movie is not about happy endings. It's about kind of the character's journey, which I like.
Another thought that I just had based on what you were talking about is just thinking about like certain moments when Brittany Snow, she has to hold her breath for a very long time, and then she
Mm-hmm.
does it, and then they're like, "Whoa!" I didn't think that was possible, kind of a deal. I was like wondering if this would make it worse or better if they like throughout the movie they had like kind of flashbacks to like Brittany Snow and like her life with her brother and stuff like that, and just like I don't know if maybe flesh some of these characters out a little
Yeah.
bit more. You could either do it with flat flashbacks like that, which some people probably don't like that whole trope anyways, or you can have it done through like better dialogue, because I do think you're right that
Yeah.
there is like messaging as far as like rich versus poor. I mean, some of those movies are like the best movies. Like look at Parasite, which is seen as like
Mm-hmm.
one of the best movies like ever made,
Yeah.
and that's a rich versus poor kind of thing. And that's big even nowadays with movies that keep coming out about like the huge wealth gap and stuff. So I think that is
Mm-hmm.
something that is good about the movie, or at least something a theme that they were trying to nail. And
Yeah.
whether they did or not. I don't know, but
yeah, this movie is definitely not for everybody. But if you do like it, I know James from Dead Meat really likes this movie as well.
oh,
Because
okay.
I watched the kill count on it as well. So I don't know. It's just a movie that it hit me at a perfect time where it's like I didn't know anything about this movie. I went in and it surprised me.
That's what's up. Yeah, I love that. Cool. Well, thanks for trying, Hunter. I wish we would have liked it more, but you know,
That's
I
fine.
guess I wouldn't rather.
There you
So all
go.
right, moving on to the next movie, which is a movie that I picked, right? We watched Presents. Did we watch it for this? No, we did a different roundup for it. We watched Presents, which was a Steven Soderbergh movie, horror movie that came out with, and then we watched Unsane, which I think is a 2012 movie. I think it was like 2012 or something, but
2018.
oh, my bad. 2018, much later than 2012.
That's interesting because I actually just rewatched Presents and I like that movie so much better than this movie. You guys, I think, both really like this movie. I'll preview, or at least liked it better than I did, maybe. I was not a big fan of this movie, and I think Hunter and I were actually in the chat kind of like talking about kind of some of the plot holes of this movie. You really do have to suspend a lot of disbelief to like buy into a lot of things that happen in this movie. Like, one, that there's like this insurance scam that a a fair number of people are getting like forcibly placed into a mental health facility, and then that they would hire, you know, this guy who's like a stalker or whatever. I don't know. It was interesting, but I feel like there are other movies that have done the same plot line, and even other TV shows that have done the same plot line and done it in a way that I personally enjoyed better. The interesting part of this movie, it was filmed on an iPhone, I think.
Mm-hmm.
iPhone 17 or something.
Yeah. So that was interesting. You know, there's some interesting visuals. The acting was good. It's just you know, uh I just didn't personally like the story required. It was like set in reality, but it required you to like kind of disbelieve a lot of things I think that are true. And I don't know. It just, yeah, I think just the fact that this type of story, like a woman who is placed in an insane asylum against her will and kind of has to deal with certain things that arise out of that, like, I think it's just been done better in a lot of different media. So, yeah.
Hunter.
So I agree with Carrie. I think I liked it a little bit better than she did, but that's mostly because I appreciate all the acting in it as well. I think the acting, especially by Claire Foy, is great. But I did have problems where it's like where the message of mental health comes into play. Of like, I don't think they would just throw somebody in an insane asylum and just leave them alone. Just say, oh yeah, you know, we don't believe you because you know, blah 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 blah. But for me, it's also the idea that you're gonna hire this guy. Like, I get he changed his name and stuff, but you're not gonna do any research on who you're hiring at a mental institution. I know it happens and it sucks, but like this one kind of just goes way overboard. Of like, you guys, one, are not going to fact check anything that Claire Foy's character is saying. Like, I get it that she's in the insane asylum, but when she keeps saying, "Hey, I know this guy. I've seen this guy. He's stalking me," that's something you should take seriously anyway. Like, anybody should. But the fact that nobody even does anything to help her is kind of the unrealistic part for me. Like, if this was made in the 90's and 80's and had or was set during that time period, maybe I would understand. But 2018, like, we're starting that movement of like, believe women and like women have voices, and this one is just saying, nah, she's crazy. Let's just not, believe her. But no, I don't think that was intentional. I just think if Steven Soderbergh wanted to make a movie about that, it would have been nice to see more attention to detail and care done with this type of story, because it is very dangerous to just take mental health and say we shouldn't believe them because they're in here. They're in there because they're trying to get better. But on to the positives, I do like Claire Foy in this movie. I like her character. I like that she actually tries to do something the entire film. Like, she's not just, put off to the side and like has to accept her fate. I like that she does actually fight back. Funny thing, weird Matt Damien cameo, just out of nowhere, which I find hilarious. Um, and I really did like the ending. I think the ending was really cool where she does end up fighting back. But just the idea of when you're talking about mental health, it should be something that you kind of look more into, is where I kind of lean towards not really liking it as much.
Yeah, I liked it the most out of the three of us, just because while I do agree that there were some things that I was like, wait, I don't know if I buy like the logic of like how you keep someone at a place, and like even like the mom came in, they make like it's such a hurdle for the mom to get her out and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, and so like they go like out of their way to not believe her and stuff like that. So on that level I agree with what Hunter was saying, but I also kind of disagree where I think the level of hiring practices and things like that, I do think really sometimes like Hunter said, they do happen, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like because of that, it's a good way to get the the story told, because you have to like I think you have to suspend your disbelief sometimes to actually get the story told. But I do feel like how they did it, where they were having this woman in a situation to where everything was like kind of like checking against her, so
Mm-hmm.
that when it comes to believability, it's not just the fact that she's a woman that they're not believing her. It's where she is and like certain other things around her that like kind of put her predicament in that she's not a believable person at that time and place.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, well, because we also, I think it was with Sisters, that was another movie that had someone get trapped in a mental facility, and then you don't believe them when they're there because they're there, and then you're just like, well, this is people who have mental problems, sometimes might say things that people won't believe if they're in a specific kind of case. Now, I do think what Hunter said about the timing, that it's like with 2018, maybe it would be a little bit different than Sisters from the 70s and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of understand like maybe they would have more uh practices, like more policies in place to kind of like fact check certain things. I understand like where you're coming from with that, but I also am just sitting there like, I don't know, maybe I think some of these places might still be like that, where they
Mm-hmm.
don't check, they don't hire. I know like a lot of like police departments, they don't check, or sometimes they don't care. Like they
Mm-hmm.
will have like a problem person in on the payroll, and instead of just like firing them, they'll move them somewhere else.
Yep.
And then if you look at all the TV stuff where you have like child predators that are working on TV stations with kids and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I just think about like all those places that are just like, you would think that they would vet every single person that's working there, make sure they're not like weird and crazy. But it just turns out sometimes that happens. So I don't know. I think there is a lot of commentary on that in this,
Mm-hmm.
and where maybe you guys looked at it as a kind of a negative, like they didn't do their research. I'm wondering if maybe Soderbergh actually was trying to comment on places and their shoddy hiring practices and just all this stuff. And, you know, maybe it's commenting on sometimes women aren't believed. And, you know,
Yeah.
they might, you know, that this is what happens when you don't believe a woman, kind of a deal. That's the horror of it, is that, you know, you'd believe this predator guy over her. But really, what it comes down to is this movie just really impressed me, because I was kind of, you know, immediately when you're like, oh, this is iPhone, it's experimental. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get into this really, because it's kind of just, you know, he's doing an experiment, and that doesn't always work for me. Where I'm like, just want to watch a movie. But here, I was just really impressed with what he was able to accomplish with the iPhone. And Soderbergh is just, I just want to keep watching more Soderbergh movies, because the dude is just really talented. And I think he knows how to take like a little bit and make something really nice out of it, because the story and like what they built in this, and I'm not saying this is an incredible movie or anything. I do think it's like really good in its writing, that the writing kept me engaged the whole time, especially, and Hunter mentioned the acting, like Claire Foy, Jay Farrow, and Juno Temple. Like I'm like, you know, and then
Jay Farrow was really good.
yeah. And then I'm just like, you know, wow, like, you know, all these actors that I like just popping up. This is like really cool. And Juno Temple just playing like very different from what you're used to if you watch what's the show that I'm not popping in my head?
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso, thank you. And stuff. But yeah, the writing, like when you got down to the tables turning, and how she's being manipulated and followed by this guy, and then she takes like what his whole psychological, like, you know, infatuation with this woman, and she takes that and turns it on its head, and she's like, I'm going to control you now, kind of a deal. And she's able to get free, like by reverse manipulating him, and, you know, getting out of the situation. Unfortunately, people die because of it, but, you know, she gets out, and you know, and then yeah, it gets real, because, like, you know, something bad happens to her mom, and, you know, a lot of the stuff is just really like tragic. It's just a really tragic situation. But yeah, I was kind of fascinated by the writing in this one, and I just love sometimes how good writing can elevate something that might not look the best. And it kind of reminds me of, like, you know, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where it's like, you know, the look of it sometimes is very dated and stuff, but it's very charming. But, you know, the writing is always so good that it almost doesn't matter how, you know, poor the effects look. It makes it better. Whereas if it was like a poorly written show or a poorly written movie, then you would go, it's an iPhone movie. It's not just, yeah, whatever. It's not, didn't have talent behind the camera. And this obviously had talent, because I don't think I think if you didn't have Soderbergh and you didn't have Foy in this, I don't think it's a good movie. And because you have those two very talented elements, I think this is just really cool. So, but I do agree with you guys that, you know, it does have issues and believability and stuff like that. So, you know, it was fun to see Hunter kind of go off a little bit in the chat.
One more thing. Speaking of the chat, I did bring up the points I had in the chat, and I still think they do stand. I'm sorry. She signed a contract to go to that facility for 1 day. You cannot just then say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna keep you for 7 extra days," because her at that time, like, she's did her time. Like, she should be let free. And I like
Hunter, we're gonna keep you here for more evaluation, actually, on second thought.
see, you can't do that. I know my rights. But the weirdest part is why the mother didn't just say, "All right, I'm suing this whole place."
Right, I know.
She had her lawyer right there.
Well, the way they got around that was the lawyer being like, well, she signed the paperwork. They don't have a case. And it's like, you know,
she signed for 1 day, not 7.
Well, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I can't. You're probably right, Hunter. But yeah, it was.
I'm pretty sure that's what made me so mad. Is like, She had to sign the contract for the 1 day, but she would never sign for an extension. Like, because even though someone is, seems mentally unstable, you still have to give them their rights.
Yeah.
And like, go ahead.
I was just saying, I feel like we're gonna have to do a watch along with this at some point. Yeah, I told you.
I told you.
Should we move on?
Man. Yeah.
All right. So Carrie's getting tired, so we'll move on to. I think everyone's going to agree a much, much better movie than anything we've talked about so far this episode. The Invisible Man.
This is a movie where not believing the woman is actually explained greatly.
Yep.
But I love this movie, man. This is Lee Winnell's Invisible Man. First off, the acting is just insanely incredible. But also, I love that he took the Invisible Man aspect, he kept the Invisible Man story, but made it modernized. He put technology into it that makes sense. I love that it talks about, abuse in a way that not a lot of movies talk about. It's not just the physical or the mental or the emotional abuse. It's the lifelong abuse. Like her, Cecilia's character, after she finds out that Adrian is dead, she's still like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I believe it. Is this another play? Is this another, him manipulating me? Or, is this actually real? Am I free? Like, she has all these questions. I also love that they brought up that Adrian gives her the money because that's another way he can control her. He's like, even in death, I am going to provide for you with this money. But I also love that Cecilia takes that and uses it for something good. Like, she uses it to, for is it Sydney?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the daughter, for her to go to fashion school. That's a good thing, but you still have this, like, being manipulated and controlled, and like, is she seeing what she actually seeing, or is this just her trauma from, like, does she not think that he's actually dead? And then you, as an audience, you're like, okay, I know what this movie is, but maybe it's going to be a different way. Maybe it's not what we think it's going to be. And then, it kind of becomes what you think it's going to be, the Invisible Man movie. And I love that the camera really is the point of view of the Invisible Man. Like, when the camera goes down the hall, somebody's watching, but there's nobody there. You're like, okay, like, they're holding on to this shot at the closet for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm thinking somebody's watching me. And that is completely terrifying. And then I absolutely love the ending of this movie where she gets her revenge on Adrian. And now you're like, okay, now she has the control. She got the control back from her abuser. And it's such a good freaking movie. I love this movie so much. So definitely top tier for me.
Yeah, very well said, Hunter. This is a movie that Carrie and I saw. It was like this, either the last or the second to last movie that we watched before the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw it, and I loved this movie, and I just thought it was so incredible. I remembered the Oscar slate. They were like, there wasn't a lot of movies coming around like COVID time, so they were just like, let's kind of combine the 2 years and 2019 and 2020, and just kind of combine them a little bit, and we'll have some movies from each year be the Oscar nominees. And then I'm just like, why couldn't they, like, if I feel like if those Oscars happened today, maybe they would have nominated this. And I think it's because, like, you have movies like The Substance and Sinners that's gonna get a nomination that are coming through now. I just feel like if this had come out after those, then it would have been a little bit chipping away at the anti-horror stigma that the Oscars has had for a very long time. I feel like that has to be the reason this didn't get a nomination, because for me, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. And Hunter, described a lot of the reasons why beautifully, just how well handled this is, and just rewatching this movie, because I've gone through and I've championed this movie for so long. But when I do, sometimes I'll have people like friends who I talk to who will act like it's not the best thing that's ever
Mm-hmm.
they've ever seen. And I'm just like, isn't not as good as I remember? And then rewatching it, I'm like, no, I was right. This movie's incredible. This movie is just
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. And it's just like, it goes back to stuff like the Babadook, and I would never say like elevated horror or anything, because I feel like there's so many just great
I hate that term.
yeah, there's so many great movies that just happen to use horror as like a lens for the storytelling. And this is one of those where it like does get to the core of, domestic violence and like fear
Mm-hmm.
of someone having such control over you that you literally can't move and can't trust yourself and can't trust things around you, and the fear of just going out to the mailbox by yourself without fearing that someone's watching you or someone's going to get you. um, is just such a real kind of thing. It really puts you in the shoes of someone who is a victim of abuse like this, and it just
Mm-hmm.
does it on such a real level that it uses the invisible man idea as a method of making you wonder if someone is actually there, if it's all in her head. And it's very psychological in that way. But then it, like Hunter said, it does make it like a really cool, like sci-fi uh way of showing this as well, because we've watched a couple of the old Invisible Man movies and they're really good. I like those
Mm-hmm.
movies, but I feel like this elevates it a little bit more because of how they're able to handle the the dramatic story of Cecilia and her fear, with also having the tension of the realistic monster movie that this is,
Mm-hmm.
where it's a guy who created a suit with cameras, and it's just so cool how they designed that and made it seem so realistic that someone could have invented that, and how it works. And the slow burn of the film, that like you don't even really get like a big scare right up until like she throws the paint on him, and like that's like the
Mm-hmm.
first like real big
That's
scare
a
in the
great
movie.
jump scare, but I will say the great thing about this is that there are scares in between before that, like the kitchen scene where
Mhm.
she's cooking breakfast, and all of a sudden she drops the knife, and the knife just stops, as in like
Yeah,
somebody's catching it
Mhm.
in midair, or
Mhm.
like he turns up the flame so
yeah,
the pot starts to boil fast and starts to burn. Just a lot of these small little horror moments that you're like, I saw that. Like
yeah.
she's not crazy because I saw that.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, it definitely does, give you real clues that something is actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's like certain times where she's just kind of sitting in a room and she just kind of like is just sitting there listening, and you're just like, you're kind of wondering if something's there or
Yeah.
not. It's just like it's just a testament to the direction and the acting in those scenes, that you're just really there with her, just afraid. It's almost like
Mm-hmm.
you're a victim of this guy too, because you're just thinking about what being her in that situation. And that's what great movies do, is really put you in the shoes of someone like this, so that like just thinking about the idea of being under someone else's control like this, and that they're going to use their words, and they're going to try to turn people against you, like when he sent that email to her sister, and just,
Mm-hmm.
really creates this narrative, and just really disgusting, and like gaslighting, and just doing
He
all
he decks a kid, by the way.
oh yeah, it's like
He
every like
punches Cindy
little
right in the face.
it's like every little piece of shit thing that he can do to like really make people like really destroy her support system.
Mm-hmm.
It's just is just what abusers would do, so that, you know, she can't get out of your control.
Yep.
And then, you know, like trying to frame yourself as the victim of your brother who was your victim is just such a crazy thing to do. Anyways, like this movie is just so brilliantly done, just from every angle, that I just love it so much. And that's why, you know, I just was like, I'm so excited to talk about this one, because I just like really love it. I can't wait to watch it more often. I just want to watch it kind of like every year. And you know, just Lee Winnell, man. I mean, I love Upgrade. I love this. And, you know, I didn't love Wolfman, but I just kind of hope he can recapture his mojo and give us something else, because we know he has it in him. So
I'm really hoping that he is picked to direct the next Saw movie.
okay. Yeah. I don't know.
Him and James Wan are coming back, so I would love for him to take over the mantle.
Maybe, yeah. Or at least writing and stuff. But Carrie, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have said as far as the Invisible Man. This movie, it's not so much. I want Lee Winnell to do more stuff like this and less like Saw, but yeah, this movie is just, it's incredibly brilliant. Like, what a fantastic way to update this concept for the modern age. And like, when we think about like great remakes and just taking the idea that was in the original movie and I think the H.G. Wells book, and like updating it, like making it so that it's believable today and it's scary today for like our modern technology, and also the concepts that kind of scare us, like to have. And I mean, it's kind of the classic part of the Invisible Man where, you know, he kind of develops into, as when this guy who's, he's not a good guy, like in most of the movies the Invisible Man is not a good guy. And you look at like something like what is it, Hollow Man?
The Hollow Man, he
probably the worst one, the second worst
bad.
version.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy's worse, I don't know, they're all bad, but yeah, the way this treats abuse and like coercive control, and just like the scenes where like Elizabeth Moss's character is describing how it slowly escalated over time, the control he had over her, the way he cuts off her resources, like you guys said, her support systems, is so realistic. Like, abusers make it so that there's nowhere to turn because you basically shut everyone else out of your life. No one wants to help you anymore, or at least you think no one else wants to help you anymore. Yeah, it's just brilliantly done. And yeah, and the ending, it like the ending is fantastic. It just like pays off like the whole movie. Like yeah, it's fantastic.
James is such a great friend, by the way. He like all that stuff happens with like his daughter and things like that, and he's immediately like, oh, she needs me, I'm right there.
Yeah. I mean, he does what like every person would do, like to protect their kid, is that he goes, you need to back off because I don't know what's going on right now. But
Yeah.
of course, you know, he also wants to help his friend.
That's the only unrealistic scene to me, though, is like, I get that James wouldn't know that it wasn't Cecilia, but shouldn't Cindy not know that Cecilia didn't hit her? Her hand didn't move.
Think so, because when you get hit, I think sometimes you just don't really know what happens, and you're liable to believe that the only other person in the room hit you, then nothing hit you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's just,
like,
yeah.
There was like a distance between them that I'm like, she didn't even move her hand. Like,
well, I think it's shot. The shot is in such a way that you, as the audience member, are very clear that that Elizabeth Moss didn't hit Sydney, but that
Cindy,
you could see how because she doesn't know there's a guy in an invisible suit. Like, all she knows is that there's one other person in the room. Someone hit her. So
yeah.
And I also just got to say, because we're going to move on in a second, but the poster that I chose for this, I just love, because it's just like her, like just only thing lit is her, just scared, and just like blank space around her.
Yeah.
And I just like, I feel like that's kind of the scariest thing, is just like if you think about what is it, the not the movie that we're coming up, but the rooms that are like blank. What are those called? Where it's like just a you know, open space. Um oh god dang it. You guys don't know rooms.
I
Um
don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about.
rooms. Oh no. This
Oh
is
no.
got a lot of this out, and it's liminal space. Liminal space.
Okay.
That's what it's called, liminal space, where it's just like off-putting when you have like a space that's supposed to contain things like people and
Mhm.
stuff, and it's just empty, and it's just unsettling and it's scary.
Yeah.
So I feel like some horror movies could use that and stuff, which I feel like not really related to this, but kind of, because it's like it's her kind of like with an open space. It's why I a lot of the times can't have things behind me. So a lot of the time, especially if I'm watching a really scary movie in the theater, like when I went to watch Smile 2, I couldn't have anything behind me because they were playing on that idea of like looking in the mirror and having something standing
Mhm.
behind you. And I was like, I need to have a wall behind me. I don't know. I'm going off the track. Let's move on.
One more
Go ahead.
thing before we move on. Absolutely love this opening. Her
Oh
escaping
yeah.
and her
Mhm.
like holding the phone right next to him and like having the home security camera on so she can see when he wakes up. And then like
Mhm.
I love that it's done in a way where like you as the audience, like when the dog hits the car, you're like, no, 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 run. And you're just like,
Yeah.
that was such a good scare because you're like, oh no, he's coming.
Well, it's fantastic how he sets it up so that without words, like at least a few minutes in if you don't know immediately, a few minutes in
Mm-hmm.
what is going on in that scene, that she's running away from an abuser or
Yeah.
And
something to
and
that
then
effect.
and then Adrian coming in and punching the window was
Yes. Oh,
terrifying because you're like,
yeah.
oh, like if the audience didn't get it at that point, you definitely get it now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. And just the way that that whole sequence is shot, just as like someone who loves watching this good cinematography and just like the way
Mhm.
cameras move, it's just so like methodical and just like I don't know, it's just like the way he moves the camera. I'm just
It
like
feels, and I'm not sure if it is. It feels like it was one take, but I don't think it was. So I'm
I
pretty sure
don't
you
think
can
it,
see some edits, but
yeah, I don't think it was like a one shot sequence, but I
mhm.
do but it is shot in like such a particular way that it
Mhm.
feels very special, and you're just like
I also love that when she sees the dog, the first idea she has is, "All right, I'm taking you with me."
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
it's one of the well, I mean, she ends up with the dog, so it's not totally sad, but
Mhm.
it is one of those things to where like that's like the first like when I ever watch like videos of like someone getting like arrested or something, or even a movie where someone's getting arrested or something like that, I just think about like if they have kids or animals, and I'm just like, what's gonna happen to them? Like, are they gonna be okay?
Yeah.
Like, I'm less worried about the people getting arrested. I'm just
Mhm.
like, what happens to the dog? Is the dog gonna be okay? Or the dog gonna be sent to like the pound or something? Like,
Mhm.
what's gonna happen? Hopefully, someone's gonna take care of that animal. So
And I I also love that, which I could talk about this movie for hours, but we will move on, I
it's not.
promise. I love that they show Adrian in the beginning holding her medicine, and that comes back, and you realize,
Mhm.
oh, she's on a antipsychotic. She's on a, you
Mhm.
know, because what that does is when things start happening, then you, the audience, are like, well, she's off her meds. She's been off her meds for a while. Is she actually seeing that, or are we going crazy with her?
Yeah.
Because it's
Is
like,
it an antipsychotic, or is it like a medicine that makes you like pass out, like an anxiety med that if you take a lot of it, it puts you, because I thought she put it like basically knocked him out with it.
I thought I thought it was a antipsychotic, but a lot of antipsychotics can be worked as an anti-anxiety medicine as well. Then this is
Mhm.
a whole nother topic, but I'm pretty sure it was that, because if it is, then her kind of going crazy makes a lot more sense, because it's like she's off her, off her meds, like, because then the audience starts feeling like maybe there is something wrong, or maybe he is there. It kind of adds that question of, is there actually somebody there, or is Cecilia just dealing with trauma on top of not having her meds?
I think it is an anxiety, like a anxiety med, because I
Oh,
think
is
they
it?
show it to you so closely because she drops the bottle when she's leaving, like in the car,
Mhm.
and then it shows up later in her when she's staying
Yeah,
with
it's
Alice Hodge and
it's an
like
it's an
so you,
it's an anxiety medication called diazepam.
Diazepam. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes a lot more sense.
but it's to show
Okay,
you that he is really back because she dropped that medication. He picked it
Mhm.
up and then he
and
put
and
it
his
in
blood
his nose.
prints,
Yeah, yeah,
his handprint.
And
Yeah,
and he was drugging her, right?
yeah.
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 So, and that's another manipulation tactic to control someone's physical, like um, chemical brain.
And also, you can
Um,
tell that, like, without any words, you can tell how bad Adrian is, because she already had a plan at the beginning of the movie. She had her bags packed. She had a place where she put her bags. Just walking through that house, you really get a clear idea without any words how bad this relationship is, and I think that's so brilliant.
Mhm.
okay, I think we've just decided this. We're doing an Invisible Man watch along at some point.
Yes,
We
yes,
all obviously love this movie
we
and
have to.
find it
Yes,
fascinating. So yeah. All right. So
Valentine's Day, we have to do it.
we'll see. Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. That okay. Valentine's Day. I don't know. That actually might
I
be.
I don't want us to like the implications of like this is a
Yeah.
good
That
Valentine's
The
Day
only
movie.
reason I said that is because the movie came out on Valentine's Day, so
like
Oh, did it really?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
well, all right, well, there you go. All right, so let's move on to another psychological movie. Actually, both are Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Yeah.
Oh, this movie is
And
so fun.
I'll start with this one. Yeah, I like this movie a good amount. I think I liked it more the first time I watched it, just because of you don't actually know what's going on. Although the second time you watch it, when you do know what's going on, it does kind of add like another layer of this is ridiculous, kind of a deal. Not in like a bad way, but like these people are just making the worst decisions. And obviously, again, for this movie, we're going to talk spoilers because if we tell you what it actually happens at the in the movie to this one guy, then you'll know what the whole kind of thing is,
Mhm.
which is kind of funny, but it's like one of these where you're going through the movie trying to figure out what the hell is actually going on, and then once you find it out, you watch it very differently because you see how ridiculous everybody's actually being because
Mhm.
of what is really going on. And it's fun because it's all the characters are sort of like like the younger generation, so they're using a lot of like newer terms and stuff, like you're
You're
silencing
silencing
me
me.
and and things like
One of my
that,
favorite lines.
and just the way they talk and connect with each other is a very kind of like Gen Z way of doing it, which I think is
Mhm.
really fun because when you have something like Scream come
Mhm.
out and it's very 90s and you have very 90s references and things going on, uh you really like it's tied to that generation, which is the charm of it. And I think that's the same with this here. I love movies that kind of go into like play into the generation that it's in. And for someone who isn't Gen Z, it's interesting to see how people of like the newer generations might act differently than if they were in like the older kind of generations, like the millennials and stuff. And to see them here, it's really fun. I like the idea of the game Bodies, 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 and how that plays
Mhm.
into what if someone actually dies, and then how everything kind of goes off the rails and no one trusts each other, and they go through like talking about all of their relationships and stuff. And this is actually a thing, going back to something like Would You Rather. It's a very different kind of movie, but you see how with Bodies, 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 the way they have like the character development and the building of the characters through the dialogue that they have, even though it's a lot of like yelling at each other, you get a really good sense of like who these characters are. And so you get really upset when a lot of them start dying off and stuff like that. And the spoiler of the big spoiler of the thing is that Pete Davidson accidentally kills himself by trying to open a bottle with the sword, and he like cuts his neck or whatever, right? And
So to be more clear, because it's just him randomly doing it. The reason he was trying was because Lee Pace's character did it at the beginning of the movie, and he pretty much wants to up and like be like, I could do that too, and he just
he's just kind of sitting there doing a TikTok, like recording a TikTok of himself, and is just fucking around. And then he's just like, I'm gonna do it. Hell yeah, I'm gonna do this.
He said, I can do it.
And then he accidentally kills himself. And honestly, like, you could totally see like people like someone who is trying to do like a TikTok do like a really crazy challenge or something like that end up going really wrong. I'm not saying like kill yourself, but really like you can injure yourself or something like that. And so it kind of feels realistic in that something that might happen. The idea of doing like a storm party is kind of cool. But then when it goes haywire, when they see he's dead, but they assume that someone did that to him, which is where the psychology of it comes in, and everyone's just trying to figure out who did it. And when you have something like Scream, where it's the twist is it's two killers. With Bodies, 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 the twist is that there was no killer.
There wasn't a killer. Yeah.
Kind of dumb and kind of just killing themselves and just like.
And also, the great thing is that you see how fast they turn on each other, and they're supposed to be friends. But you see how like immediately they're like, "Oh, you did it because of this," and you get all their backstories based on their arguments, and not like be like, "You did this instead of this," and like it's done so well because you see like they're not really friends; they're fake friends. They just like being around each other because they can do TikToks and stuff.
Yeah. I mean that, and maybe that goes into like that kind of the culture of like, trying to be an influencer, or trying to, have this like online persona and stuff like that, that's kind of fake. What is that one? Was that movie called Influencer that we watched? That was good, and it was about that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's getting a sequel, baby.
How it plays on the generation and stuff. I just think the writing in this was really good. I think it's just a really fun I mean, I remember saying, and I know that Hunter's gonna roll his eyes, but I remember saying that Bodies, Bodies, Bodies felt more like a Scream movie than the Scream 5 that came out. That I was like, this feels actually kind of really original, and like something that gives me the vibes of like a Scream, because you're wondering like who did it and stuff, and it has like that mystery element to it. Not that Scream 5 doesn't also have its strengths. It's a fun joke. I used to like to say a lot, but now I like them both. And Bodies, 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 I think is just, I don't know. I'd love to see like some sort of like, I don't know. I want to say I'd love to see like a sequel, like Bodies, 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 Bodies. But just kidding.
Just 6 bodies.
6 bodies. But honestly, it just feels like a really good solo movie that's just kind of fun to rewatch every once in a while. Especially when you get to the scene watching him, try to open the bottle with the sword, and you're like, uh-oh, and
you're like, I know it's coming.
It's like the two like final girls that end up that sit there and they watch it, and you're just like, but it really like upset me to see like when they killed Lee Pace in the movie.
Yeah,
it really upset me, because I was like, you guys, what the just like check. I don't know, like check his go out and check.
Greg's character, played by Lee Pace, did like say, "Are you guys still playing werewolf?" and then started chasing them around while they're all thinking that there's a killer on the loose.
Yeah, it's like an unfortunate scenario where
Yeah,
they were scared and he was like, "What are you guys doing?" Kind of a deal. And
yeah.
uh, it's and I think that's the movie. It's just like a bunch of like unfortunate misunderstandings, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like Three's Company, where it's just like so many misunderstandings.
Yep.
Um, but with Three's Company, it's just kind of funny. With here, everyone dies because of it. But yeah, I think this is a fun. Is it a slasher? I guess it's technically
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a slasher, even though there is no slasher. They're all
Uh,
slashers.
I would say
Yeah,
who done it.
yeah,
Mhm.
who done it? Yeah, but
Yeah.
no one done it, or they all did it.
Yeah.
Kind of yeah, very interesting movie. Carrie, what'd you think?
Yeah, I love this movie. It's so fun. It's a very dark comedy, especially after you've already seen it once and you know what the twist is, because rewatching it, like I think like something like when you watch it the first time, we were talking about Lee Pace's death. When you watch it the first time, it's like kind of like you kind of he can't be the killer really because it's so early in the movie that
Mm-hmm.
it happens, but you kind of like it's not as shocking. You kind of understand why they did it, but then rewatching it, you're like, oh, he's just like goofing off. It's very clear he's just goofing off once you know what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was a fun rewatch. I do think this movie, it was fun to rewatch knowing the twist, but I do think like just watching it for the first time, like I don't know if a rewatch really like lives quite up to watching it for the first time, just because
Yeah,
it does have that really fantastic twist. But I think still a really good rewatch, still really funny. I think one of the more creative horror movies that we've gotten in recent years,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the more creative like horror comedies that we've gotten in recent years.
yeah. I also liked it a little bit less on rewatch, but like not like substantially. Like I still liked
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
it.
So for me, it actually got better on a rewatch
Mm.
because you know what happened at the end. You know the big twist, but the reason it made it so much better for me is because I got to just watch these characters and see how they interact and how they are immediately blaming each other. And me knowing the ending, you're like, oh, you guys are so dumb. But again, I put myself in their positions. You don't know what happened. Even on a rewatch, like you don't know what happened, and then you're like following the characters, and which I love the characters anyway. So being able to follow them actually makes it a lot more funnier and a lot more better because then when the ending comes, you're like, of course, like no, like nobody did it. He was just an idiot who did it himself, and it makes that ending even funnier because you see these people kind of fighting back and forth with each other the entire time. I don't know. I found it even more funnier on a rewatch, but I love that we have all these movies throughout the decades that when you watch, you can feel that they're in that time period. Like you have Scream. I would put Jennifer's Body up there for the 2000s, where you have like that movie feels like a 2000s movie, like the way they
Mhm.
talk, the way they act,
Hmm.
the way they kind of interact with each other. And then this one is like a Gen Z. But what's great is it's a Gen Z movie, but it doesn't hate the fact that it's a Gen Z movie. I think the problem with people who try to do a Gen Z movie is that they misunderstand what this generation is and they write it from a perspective of let's make all these characters annoying and like you hate every single one of them. This movie they have characters you hate, but each of these characters have a great moment or a great, you kind of understand why they are the way they are. And it doesn't hate its characters like some movies would do. It shows how characters are different, which I love. But one of my favorite characters is Alice, played by Rachel Sonnet. She has some of the best lines. The
Hmm.
Oh,
"You're
she's
silence
great.
in me" always gets me laughing. There's just so many moments of her talking about getting with Lee Pace's character, and you're like, this does not look good, and she's just trying to defend it. It's
She's like,
so
I met him
funny.
online. I don't know. He seemed cool.
What is it? He's a Taurus or something. Like she says his zodiac sign, and she's like, that means something.
Yeah.
That's definitely a young person like
Oh my
dating
god.
kind of thing. Like
I
random
absolutely
guy.
love this movie. Yes. I absolutely love, and I love the fact that they immediately bring up the fact that, hey, this dude does not belong here. Do you see how old he is? Lee Pace is in his 40s.
Yeah.
You're like, and apparently he has very strong lungs, which I absolutely love that line as well. When
I mean,
Greg is like, yeah, I have really strong lungs.
yeah, he's like the outlier. Like she just met
Mm-hmm.
him. He's older. They're obviously gonna think he did it first.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I guess that they didn't like leave it there after that. They because no one died. Well, no one got murdered after that, right? So they didn't just kill him
No.
and then just go, oh well, he's probably good. They just still kept killing each other.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like it was a downward spiral.
I wanted to. I was looking it up because the director, Helena Rain,
Regine.
she's like 50. But then I was looking at the writer. So there's the screenplay is Sarah DeLapp, and then Kristen Raupinian. Kind of regret trying to read people's names now because I can never do it. It looks like at least the writers might be younger, which I think is important because I was like, is the director Gen Z? It could have been cool if it was like all like Gen Z made, but I think like the writing really does ring true as like because I don't understand like half of what they're saying. So just kidding. But
I don't know. This movie to me feels like, and I'll always say this. This feels like this generation's Scream.
Yeah.
Where like people of our future generations will go back and watch this and be like, oh, this is what was cool about the 2020s or about the 2010s,
Yeah.
the 2020s. Like they'll have this movie to fall back on, just like we have Scream to fall back on to see what the 90s were kind of like the era that was in.
Yeah, I agree. It's like this. You got like that movie Sissy. That was really cool. That kind of feels like it's very like influencer kind of today minded kind of thing. Anyways, we can move on to the last movie in the whole thing, which was one that I was really excited to get to. And when we were like, let's do 31 days, this was one that I immediately thought about. Like, I really want to watch this, and it came out in the 2020s. We just hadn't seen it and didn't talk about it, so let's talk about it now. Red Rooms, very intense movie.
Okay. This one I think we had all heard really good things about this. Hunter, I can't remember if this was a first time watch for you too.
It was.
Okay. I think we'd all heard just like within the horror community that this was very good, but didn't watch it last year when it came out, or at least came on streaming. But I remember we watched it after Hunter did, and Hunter messaged us and was like, well, there's some like child murder in this, like it might not be your guys' thing. So I was a little nervous about it. But and there is, but it's they
you don't see anything on
you
screen.
don't see anything. Yeah, but obviously I think it is very emotional because they put you in the shoes of like the parents and the aftermath and like everything you see. You don't, it's the idea is everything's on videotape, the torture of these young teenage and preteen girls, but you see from the reactions of the viewers. But this was such an interesting movie. I really didn't know like what the movie would be about, and just like watching this was such a journey to try to figure out the main character. And I love this type of movie where it's kind of like everything's kind of ambiguous. Like I think this is a movie you could watch a lot of times and get different things from it at different times. Kind of the main character's motivations. It's very interesting to like debate that. Like I didn't know what to think after I first finished this movie. I was like, oh, this was really good and well done, but I don't know what to think about it. And I just found myself over the next week or two just constantly looking up different theories and seeing what other people had to say about this movie, and like thinking about it, you know, about what people were saying for myself, and kind of like, okay, did I take it the same way or not? Just very and like a movie that gets you to think that hard about it, and to like it stays with you kind of, and to think about a lot of it was like, I feel like about like obsession, and maybe about, you know, true crime culture, and about, I don't know, just how we live with certain horrible things that happen in society. I just a really a fascinating movie. And I'd love to watch this again in a year or two, or a few years, and just see like how I take it then. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I was like, maybe like wait a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, and it's intense. Like it is
Get in the right
intense.
mood.
It's hard to like sit there and rewatch this because it's that intense. But
this is a movie that you have to be in the right mood to watch.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love this one. I went into it not knowing what it was. It's an international film, so I love that you have subtitles on it, and you get to kind of, when films like that, I'm forced to pay attention more because I have to read and pay attention more. So that always helps. But I love that it talks about not only people's obsession with true crime and following cases, but this weird idolization of serial killers that we're having. Like Ryan Murphy's making a big career out of just doing serial killer shows. And like, you know, you had people a few years ago dressing up as Jeffrey Dahmer, you know, for Halloween, and you're like, this guy actually murdered people. And it's different if it's like Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers, where they didn't kill anybody. But like people's obsession with real life killers, to the point of dressing up like them for Halloween, you're just like, that's weird, man.
Yeah.
Like real people were affected by this. And this movie has a character, our side character, that, you know, she falls for the killer, you know, the accused, and you don't really understand why until like maybe the end of the movie, where she's like, you know, I was obsessed with him because I felt a connection, but now that I know what he did is real, know what he did is true, they've convicted him, like, you know, she actually apologizes and is like, you know, my heart goes out to the family. And you're like, okay, that's kind of a good growth for that character. Our main character, I really like her because she is determined. She wants to find out what happens. And she's somebody who doesn't have a side. She's always stuck in the middle, but she wants to know what happens. I love that it talks about true crime and about killer obsessions and the kind of world that we're into right now. What's so funny?
I'm just laughing because I know when you're like talking about like she doesn't have a side, Carrie was like, I want to say something. I was like, we'll get to you. We'll ping it back to you.
I already talked. I'm sorry.
No, it's just it's good. It's funny because, you know, like I'm not even disagreeing with Hunter. I just like I think it's fun where we can kind of see different character stuff differently, and that, you know, it's sometimes open to interpretation, because it's not like, I mean, you can see like through actions and stuff, you know, but, you know, reading a character can be different from, you know, who you are and like what lived experience you've had and stuff, and you can, you know, because characters aren't always like cut and dry, and I feel like, you know, she is, because the main character is someone who you're trying to figure out the whole movie, and she's just like, really, why is she there? What is she doing? What is she a part of this somehow? She goes to these hearings, and she's there. She like will go sleep outside of it just to get in line to make sure she gets in the thing, and she's, like you said, like really obsessed and just like trying to, you know, I mean, she doesn't even really make it clear like what she thinks. So I think that's where, you know, Hunter's coming from, where it's like, you know, she's you don't know what's her motivations are, you don't know like what she's gonna do, and then that makes it kind of exciting, like when she goes and she dresses up like one of the victims in such a really uncanny, like
That was
unnerving,
a very uncomfortable scene. Yeah.
and she does it like, you know, on the killer's birthday, and it's just like such a intense thing to happen, and you're just kind of like wondering, like, who is she? Who is this woman? Then ultimately she's someone that can watch these horrific things and then do the right thing and actually give the evidence over to actually help the victims, and help their closure and help, you know, convict this guy and stuff like that. But yeah, I agree with Hunter. I love the characters and how, you know, they are challenging, and how the one woman is just so dead set on, you don't have proof, you don't have evidence, you are all just jumping on this bandwagon that this guy is guilty, and you know, you don't know him like I do. Or like, and she doesn't know him, but like, I can see into his soul, and I
Yeah.
know he can do these horrible things. It's not like she's saying that these things are okay to do, but she's just saying, like, you know, I don't think this is the person that did it, because there's enough to doubt. Which, I mean, which is normally how these things work. I think that the Canadian justice system would work a little bit differently than ours, but I think generally people would say it's like you're innocent until proven guilty, and it's like the burden of proof is on the, you know, prosecution, like the state or whatever. They have to prove that you did this thing without a, you know, a reasonable doubt, and and stuff. So that's why they need hard evidence and stuff, like the actual clear footage of him doing these things, because the other tapes were so obscured. But how they, you know, describe these things, and the title of the movie as Red Rooms, and how, you know, just horrific and stuff. And that's why, like, when Hunter was like, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to like watch this really, because he knows how we feel about like harm against children and stuff like that, you know. But I feel like this movie is like, it really gets down to the core of just how horrific something like this is. It's not like Terrifier 3, where a kid gets chopped up and they do it for laughs, you know, which is why Carrie and I really don't like that movie that much. But this one is just like really respects, and it shows just how horrific these things are, to where it doesn't actually show anything. It doesn't show anything as far as like, you know, actually like, you know, like it shows like a room like after a terrible thing has happened, but, you know, briefly, but it doesn't show someone actually getting like murdered or anything like that. It just shows the sounds, which a lot of the time is like enough just to hear that. It's kind
Yeah.
of like goes down to like the Zone of Interest, the Holocaust movie, about like, you know, just showing the sounds juxtaposed to, you know, things that are supposed to be good and happy, and just like, you know, how you portray that. Just like the sound of it is just so visceral and just creepy, and just like seeing someone react to it, even where like there were parts where Carrie and I had to mute, where we're just like, I can't actually listen to this part. And I don't know, like, you know, these people that can watch streams like this and just like go on like the dark web and see things like this, like brutal murders and stuff, and just like what that does to someone psychologically, and just the thought of even like, you know, someone's child getting murdered, and then them having to sit in a courtroom and like see the tape. Like, there's no way. Like, you see that mom like try to do it, but she runs out of the room, and it's just like, it just makes me feel sick to my stomach just thinking about it. And, you know, like, and I just also really wanted to touch on how you guys are talking about like Hunter talking about just like this kind of sickness of society, into where, you know, it's like true crime is just fascinating, because it's just kind of like an other, and it's like you have like normal life, and then you see something that's just interesting, and you just see, and that's what it is. It's interesting. It's like a story, and it's like something that this person did, and it's fascinating, even though it's like evil and despicable and just horrible. It's just one of the most horrible things. I remember like Carrie and I got into true crime podcast for a while after Criminal came out, or was it Criminal?
Mm-hmm.
Criminal came out.
Or no,
And
Serial. Yeah, Criminal was the one we used to listen to. Serial, yeah.
Serial was the one that started it all for like a lot of people. And, you know, so we listened to that, and then we were listening to a bunch of different ones. And then there was another one, Sword and Scale, they were listening to. And I remember like listening to it a lot because I got really deep into it, but it got to a point to where I was listening about so many horrible things all at once that I just like started to get really like sick to my stomach and just upset and depressed. And then I was just like, I can't listen to this shit anymore. I just can't. It's just so terrible, some of the things that people do to other people. And you know, this is kind of an exploration of that, but also the obsession of it, and how it's, you know, disgusting how people, you know, will get so obsessed that like how Hunter said that, you know, people would dress like, you know, killers and stuff like that. Here it doesn't go to that level because, you know, she's dressing as a victim, not as the killer. But it's just,
that's still
like,
weird though.
It's very weird.
She does it for his birthday.
Day.
She dresses as the victim for his birthday. It's It's like
understand.
probably more fucked up.
But I don't know if like she was trying. What I was thinking was that she was trying to cause a rise out of him.
Yes, and you don't know at that point, I think, kind of whether she's trying to cause a rise out of him to like prove to herself that it's him or not. I don't know. But I think by the end, like, because Chad, you said like, oh, at the end she does the right thing and she gives over the evidence, and it's actually, I think, because I spent a lot of time looking up interpretations of this movie. I think that's a point of debate, but like she doesn't hand the evidence over to the police. She breaks into the girl's house and she leaves it for her mother. And that's the same mother who, when they play the tapes of the other girls, because the police like have the tapes of the two other girls, they didn't have the tape of this third girl. It's the mother of the third girl who can't watch it and who leaves. And at the end, she leaves the tape for the mother of the third girl, of her own daughter. And like, some people are like, she's elevating the torture even more of the, like, she's getting off on leaving the tape for the mother and like torturing the mother even more.
Maybe, yeah, I can see that.
Because she could have given it to the police or something, but she leaves it for the mother.
But she specifically broke in and left it for the mother to find.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I could see that from a character perspective. I mean, the right thing ends up happening is that like he gets caught and, you know, the evidence is out. But yeah, I didn't actually think about it from that perspective. So
I didn't either. That was a good catch.
She's more fucked up than I thought. But I thought that ultimately she had the right intentions. But yeah, I guess that's that's cool that it's like up for debate, that it's like you don't know every little piece, and they kind of keep some things a mystery that, you know, because it sucks when like a movie just openly explains everything to you all the time. And you can't, you know, they don't trust the audience to actually think about it and come up with their own interpretations of it. And
one more warning, or not warning, but just to clarify, me saying that you dressing up as a serial killer or people dressing up like serial killers is weird. I'm not dismissing anybody who likes true crime, because there are a lot of people who wouldn't do that listens to true crime because it is interesting. It is interesting hearing the, you know, getting into the psyche of why people would do that.
Yeah.
I just feel like this movie picks apart the people who go overboard with it, and those people, I think, do overstep some lines.
Yeah, and you also just have to kind of like think about how like the media focuses a lot on killers over victims, where it's like, you know, the sensationalism of someone doing like sometimes that's why people do the things that they do, so that they can get attention, and then that's what they get.
I mean, I do think this movie is partially a critique generally of true crime and true crime culture and kind of how we view things. I don't necessarily think that I mean, like, I used to be very into true crime. I don't really like take offense, and I think it is important to have things like this that are like, you know, helping us think about what's too far, why are people obsessed like this, like what are the motivations, like
Mhm.
just kind of examining those things within ourselves, like you
I
know,
mean,
I think that's still important, and I think it's
Yeah.
that's
yeah,
essentially what a lot of the horror movies that we watch kind of show us, is that
yeah,
the things that are inside what a human person is capable of doing to another human person or themselves, and kind of studying that and trying to figure out like that you can't ever really trust someone, even someone that you're very close to. In fact, a lot of victims are victimized by people they know, not strangers
Mhm.
generally. And so like knowing certain things and certain signs can help. And I know, Carrie, what was the one that you used to watch that was like had like actually like for especially for like women who are sometimes more like victimized than men, uh My Favorite Murder.
oh
uh
yeah,
they would
yeah,
have like certain like tips for people about like
Mhm.
don't trust this type of person that might do this or whatever. And like sometimes that's what true crime broadcasts and stuff can be, is like this is a story of something that happened, so you like that like this is a red flag if like someone
It's like a
does something.
cautionary tale.
Yeah. And so that you can have like
Mhm.
the good ones that do that, and then you can have maybe like more negative ones that like obsess over. I don't know, but I feel
I
like
will
this movie is
say,
an
I
examination
I just
of
thought
that.
about this, but true crime nowadays is almost like what fairy tales were back in the day, where it's
Oh
like
yeah,
fairy tales were created to be
and
almost like
lore.
a cautionary tales about,
Yeah,
you think of Hansel and Gretel, you think of don't follow strangers. Like
that's right.
everything is telling you a lesson in those. And true crime does the exact same thing. It's like the real life version of fairy tales of like, well, this is what happened to this person because they trusted the wrong person. I'll
And
take that as a cautionary tale of my life going forward.
even like folklore, like when you look at
Mhm.
stuff like witches and things like that, it goes back to a specific like fear that people had of
Mhm.
like witches were kind of like women who weren't like tied down, and it's a very sexist kind of
Mhm.
thing that the witchcraft was uh built out of. It's like a fear of like strong women, and then like we've
Mhm.
kind of subverted that and like brought it into like culture as like now there's like stories of like strong witches, like Kiki and Hermione and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But we can really get in the weeds with this. Carrie, did you have anything
Oh
else
yeah.
you were gonna bring up? Because you had a lot you wanted to say.
I know, I know. I feel like I've said I feel like I have a million things to say, but I feel like we've gone on for so long. It's like time
It's
to move
okay if you have
on.
something else to talk
No, no, no.
about.
It's a no, I don't have anything specific. So, but yeah,
Gotcha.
I mean, I do think this is a movie you can talk about for like, well, just like The
Yeah.
Invisible Man, you could talk about it for a
Oh
long time.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean it's definitely really interesting. It's very intense. It's very hard watch, but it's like rewarding. It's just like if you're not in the mood for it, it's very, very can make you sick to your stomach just thinking about
Mhm.
like some of the things that they talk about like happen to like the victims in the movie. It's just like I can't
Mhm.
even bring myself to even imagine that happening to a person. So it's really tough, but I love the exploration. I love kind of getting into the psyches of some of these characters. Yeah, good. I'm glad we all like this one because it was highly recommended to me from other people. And like my friend, friend of the channel, he's been on here, Dylan Randazzo, was really hyping this up, and my other friend Jonathan Caro was hyping it up before. So really, really was excited to check this one out, and I'm glad we all liked it, even though it's so intense. But yeah,
Mhm.
so quickly, let's for the record, let's rank these six, and then I want to hear, and then we don't have to go through our 32s. Carrie can just tell us what the list was.
Yep.
Um,
Mhm.
And so,
and I'll try to add a little bit of commentary about, who put what kind of where and everything.
Perfect. But Hunter, can you do your 2010s and 2020s list ranked from 6 to 1?
Sure. All right. Number 6 is The Wolfman. Number 5 is Would You Rather. Number 4 is Unsane. Number 3 is Red Rooms. Number 2 is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And number 1 is The Invisible Man.
Nice. Mine's actually not too far off, but I did have Would You Rather as number 6. I had The Wolfman as number 5. I had Unsane as number 4. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies as number 3. Red Rooms as 2. And The Invisible Man, of course, as my number 1.
Yeah. My ranking might be the same as Chad's. I had Would You Rather at number 6. I had The Wolfman at number 5. I had Unseen at number 4. I had Bodies, Bodies, Bodies at number 3. Red Rooms at number 2. And The Invisible Man is at number 1.
Yep, that's the same as mine. Yep.
Okay. We do have a couple ties, and this list is out of 32 because in addition to picking 3 movies from each decade, the 1930s through the 2020s, we also watched Halloween and Hocus Pocus.
And this is our overall ranking of our 32 films in our 31 days of Halloween. Overall, so excited to get this because we've spent so long getting through this. So let's revel in that we have an overall ranking from all 3 of us. So that's great.
Yeah.
Carrie's gonna explain that I believe we have ties.
Yeah, we have ties. So I'm starting at number 29, but unanimous, dead last. All of us thought so. At number 29, When a Stranger Calls. Tied for number 28, Resident Evil and the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. We all had this pretty low. At number 27, The Black Cat. At number 26, The Final Conflict, which is The Omen 3. At number 25, Would You Rather. Chad and I had this ranked very low. Hunter had this ranked pretty high. So Chad and I had it in like the 30s. Like Chad had it 30 and I had it 31 and Hunter had it 14. So.
I was about to say I like The Final Conflict more than Would You Rather. So those babies for Final Conflict that made it rough.
At number 24, we had Black Sunday.
And I do want to say with Black Sunday, I know there's a lot of people that actually really like that movie, and I feel like I need to give it another chance to see if I like it more, because I'm just like, what was I not saying that other people were saying? It's a lot of people like it. It's Mario Bava, so maybe I do need to give it a second chance. Sorry.
A 3-way tie at number 23. We had Damien, Omen 2, The Blob, and The Wolfman.
Okay.
That's fair.
At number 22, we had The Thing from Another World. At number 21 is Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Oh, okay.
At number 20 is Repulsion. Chad had this very high in his top 10. I had this like third to last. It was my number 30, and Hunter had it kind of in the middle. So it wound up
right in the middle.
Ranked it.
That's funny.
At number 19, we had The Mummy. Chad and Hunter, you guys ranked this like in your 20s, mid-20s, and I had it as number 11, so I kind of bumped it up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Right.
At number 18, we had Creature from the Black Lagoon. At number 17, The Invisible Man Returns. We actually, just because of the math, it wasn't actually ranked 18. It was ranked 17, but we all had this in our 18th slot.
Oh, that's cool.
So we all felt exactly the same way about it. At number 16, we had Urban Legend. Chad and I had this ranked quite a bit lower, but it was in Hunter's top 10.
Yes, it was.
At number 15, we had Unsane. Again, Chad and Hunter, you actually had this ranked right around the 15th slot. I think you had it at 14 and 13, but I had it pretty far down at 25. At number 14 is The Uninvited. This was in the top 10 for me and Chad, but ranked pretty lowly for Hunter.
Yeah.
At number 13, Dressed to Kill. At number 12, Beloved. And Chad and Hunter had this like at 15 and 16. I had this ranked number 3. So
Nice.
I brought it up quite a bit. At number 11 is What Lies Beneath. At number 10, Pet Cemetery.
Okay.
At number 9, Phantom of the Paradise. At number 8, Bride of Frankenstein. At number 7, The Birds. At number 6, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. At number 5, Hocus Pocus. At number 4, Jennifer's Body. And that's exactly where Chad and Hunter had it ranked, is at number 4. At number 3, Red Rooms. At number 2, The Invisible Man. And number 1 was Halloween.
Wow. Such a good ranking.
Nice.
I mean, I obviously don't agree with everything, but all of us are going to have like, hey, kind of moments with certain movies. But I love seeing like an overall ranking and where everything ends up with all of our thoughts just combined. So it's so cool. And of course, Halloween's
I'm guessing Carrie and Chad both had Halloween at 1.
Yeah.
Yes, and Hunter had The Invisible Man at 1, but you had Halloween at number 2.
Number 2, yep.
The Invisible Man was the only movie that I was like, is this gonna beat Halloween? And then I was just thinking like a horror list, you know, Halloween is like the quintessential horror film kind of deal. So for me, it's just like a little bit. Halloween's also I feel like it's like a perfect movie too. So influential.
And we literally just watched it again for our watch along, so I have it high as well because I absolutely love Halloween. But I just think The Invisible Man is a masterpiece. Like both of them are masterpieces.
Yeah, that's why it's hard. I was like, do I switch it? And then I was like, no, I won't switch it. But Invisible Man's hard number 2. Like it's.
My number 3 was Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. So I think mine kind of bumped it up a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll go to our normal thing here. But this long episode, we have a lot in the works. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. I look forward to doing another series soon. Next year, we'll do another one. We'll make it different and hopefully have everything be on time. And we'll try to figure out, like, maybe we'll do, like, I don't know, some sort of like YouTube shorts or try to figure it out to where we actually watch the movies and get them in and, get them right on time and stuff.
Yeah.
But, have patience. I'm sorry. We all have lives. And we're trying. This is just a fun kind of thing for us.
They have kids, so
we have a kid. Honestly, I think we should close it out, and then we'll bring you more stuff soon.
All right, guys. If you did enjoy this, please hit that like button, subscribe to Welcome to Primetime, and remember, stay scared.